Now, what's the main trick they want to employ? Well, as I said, it's sort of as if they are actually trying to induce this kind of Stockholm syndrome in the masses. They are trying to get you to voluntarily sign up for surveillance, as if it was all your idea to begin with. I guess the trick to subjugation is to get people to love their subjugation.
Brave New World, with another parable which was put forth more recently in George Orwell's book 1984. I'm inclined to think that the scientific dictatorships of the future, and I think there are going to be scientific dictatorships in many parts of the world, will be probably a good deal nearer to the Brave New World pattern than to the 1984 pattern. They will be a good deal nearer, not because of any humanitarian qualms in the scientific dictators, but simply because the Brave New World pattern is probably a good deal more efficient than the other. But if you can get people to consent to the state of affairs in which they are living, the state of servitude, the state of being, well, it seems to me that the nature of the ultimate revolution with which we are now faced is precisely this, that we are in process of developing a whole series of techniques which will enable the controlling oligarchy, who have always existed and presumably always will exist, to get people actually to love their servitude. People can be made to enjoy a state of affairs which, by any decent standard, they ought not to enjoy. And these methods, I think, are a real refinement on the older methods of terror, because they combine methods of terror with methods of acceptance. But then there are various other methods which one can think of. There is, for example, the pharmacological method. This was one of the things I talked about in Brave New World. And the result would be that, I mean, you can imagine a euphoric which would make people thoroughly happy even in the most abominable circumstances. I mean, these things are possible.
Now, there is a lot to take in from that clip of Aldous Huxley. And I quote, "There will be in the next generation or so a pharmacological method to making people love their servitude and producing a dictatorship without tears, so to speak, producing a kind of painless concentration camp for entire societies, so that they will be distracted from any desire to rebel by propaganda or brainwashing, or even brainwashing enhanced by pharmacological methods. And this seems to be the final revolution," end of quote. Now, if you pay attention to what global leaders, think tanks, or any of the speeches that take place at Davos, well, then you will quickly see that this is pretty much their pitch for everything. Can they convince people to love their own slavery? The clip of Aldous Huxley is rather, well, it's striking, a prophetic assessment of where society was headed. And this seems to be the exact end goal that we are set to endure. Manipulating you into loving your own servitude, convincing the world to voluntarily embrace the concept for concentration camps for entire societies. Welcome to the 15-minute city. Welcome to the 15-minute city, where technological innovation meets tyrannical ambition. So in this regard, we have a few clips to watch, a 15-minute city, mega city type of deal planned for here in the US. But first, let's take a look at the new one being proposed in the Middle East.
The new horizon for Riyadh. This is the new Maraba, the world's largest modern downtown. Born from a nation's vision to create a new way of living, a place designed around people, inspired by our culture, closer to nature, work and play. With 80 state-of-the-art entertainment venues. A new home for hundreds of thousands of residents. A new university for global students, and hotels welcoming millions of new visitors. Creating jobs and contributing to the GDP. And at its heart, a new icon, the Muqab. the world's first immersive experiential destination, helping to make Riyadh one of the top 10 most livable cities in the world. This is the new face of Riyadh. Experience a new horizon. New Murabba.
The Macabre will be the world's first immersive experiential destination, where you enter a new reality, transported to Mars one day and magical worlds the next. A gateway to another world. So, okay. Enter a new reality, a gateway to another world. Now, I don't know, but when other fanatics or those who engage over at Bohemian Grove start talking about gateways to another world, well, I start to get an ominous feeling. I will not be going to any gateways proposed by them. However, as we talk about pretty much constantly, this is a global plan, so let's check out what's going on in the US. A 15-minute city concept that will encompass an area akin to a megacity. And yes, we have here Tolosa. It's going to encompass 36 districts across a swath of Nevada, Arizona, and Utah.
But what about Tolosa? It's yet another futuristic city planned to be built from scratch. This time it'll be set somewhere in the middle of a US desert and cost a staggering $400 billion to complete. Tolosa's blueprints is all about sustainability and an economic system called equitism. And it's been proposed by this guy, billionaire entrepreneur Mark Lowry, a former Walmart executive and founder of Jet.com and Diapers.com. Yep, you heard that right.
So I thought, well, what if we created a Tolosa Community Foundation and we went out and acquired hundreds of thousands of acres of worthless land and were able to build a city.
The city's being designed by a world-famous architect and aims to be home to 50,000 people by the year 2030 before going on to grow to a population of 5 million. So, how will an entire sustainable city be built in the middle of the desert? What exactly is equitism? And why is a billionaire, of all people, proposing the city of the future?
So there you have it, the Tolosa, a 400 billion 15-minute smart city spanning 150,000 acres. And so construction on this project is projected to start in 2030. However, in reality, we now have a good idea of why Carrie Lake could not win in Arizona. So yeah, Arizona has actually been on the Google Smart City test list for quite a while. They have big plans for that state, technocratic plans. The list of cities that will be partaking in this dystopia include Austin, Boston, Chicago, Houston, LA, Miami, New Orleans, New York City, Philadelphia, Phoenix, Portland, San Francisco, and Seattle. Now, do you notice any common threads here? Every single one of those cities is currently destroying themselves with terrible and authoritarian policy. And of course, also a coincidence that George Soros and his DAs are also running amok there as well. Now, there is a part of me that believes they're letting violent criminals go free while targeting the law-abiding citizens, destroying small businesses. Look, it's no surprise. I think these cities are intentionally destroying themselves so that their citizens clamor for order, which of course is going to come in the form of smart city surveillance. That's when they're going to come out with their full plan, technocratic control. Make their lives unlivable and then offer to fix the problem, create the problem, exploit the problem, and offer the solution. But the solution was always their intended end point. Now, you might have noticed a lot of propaganda articles trying to come out and demonize those who see smart cities, the 15-minute city concept, for what they are. As usual, their counter is always the same. It's about making life more convenient for you. That's it. Don't worry about it. We are just moving essential things closer to you to make your life better. However, they always seem to leave out the constant surveillance and prosecution of those who do not comply. You know the part they always ignore. The World Economic Forum is driving the 15-minute city concept, and that they are actually working with governments to institute fines and jail time if you violate any of the restrictions. Freedom of movement is a fundamental right. Without it, you are a prisoner. Anyway, you really want to see what this is going to be like? I have a few clips to examine with you before we finish up. And I know, I'm sorry, I'm starting to lose my voice. Anyway, it's going to end up like this, as China is the blueprint. Dystopian. So, welcome to Skynet. Yes, they really do call it that.
Government can collect about its 1.4 billion citizens. Everyone over the age of 16 is required to have an official state-issued ID card that the government now wants to use to centralize all that information. And China is investing heavily in tech companies to help transform that government data into a virtually omniscient surveillance network. One of those companies is Megvii. It recently received a capital investment of nearly $500 million, part of which is from a state-run VC fund. But the name chosen for its premier piece of technology is a bit of a tell. Skynet. What is that?
The Terminator is the favorite film of our founder. So they use the same name, but they want to put something good into this system.
So, okay, in the Terminator, Skynet is evil, rains down death from the sky. But in China, Skynet is good.
Yeah, that's the difference.
So how do you think your facial recognition technology will change China?
Everything happen in the public can be record. We can know exactly what happened in every second, in every corner of the city. This is a video stream in a subway station by our smart camera. So we can capture every face in real time. Still like some criminal person is out there. There is the red box. So there is a warning to the police station that there is a criminal person. So I need to locate them.
So when it looks out onto a crowd, it's tracking all these faces and it's cross-checking those faces against what?
Criminal database.
And how many fugitives have been apprehended through this system?
Over 3,000 cases in nationwide. Yeah. Just one year.
In 1 year?
Yeah, 1 year.
Wow. So what you're working on now already seems like sci-fi. What do you think the future will look like in like 5 years?
Have you seen a film just like a Black Mirror? You just stand there and your face there is a point. So maybe that is the future.
But that's like a horror show.
Yeah. Yeah. But I think that is maybe the kind of the future. Every people have their social points, I think.
If you like spit gum on the sidewalk, it would
Yeah,
record.
your points will be.
Anyway, check out this clip.
Picture your life in a place where everything you do, what you buy, how you behave, is tracked. The government gives you a score, and the score is a measure of how trustworthy you are as a citizen and determines what you're allowed to do, like ever. Boarding a train, getting a mortgage, all goes back to this score. It's called social credit. It's actually happening in China. The system's eyes are in big data, artificial intelligence, and roughly 200 million surveillance cameras. She's a 752. That's her rating with Sesame Credit. You start with 1,000 points, and you can print out your report anytime. You lose points for things like jaywalking, littering, tossing cigarette butts, or spreading rumors. Cameras do a lot of the surveillance work, but it's pretty analog too, like posters that list the ways you can gain or lose points. And each night, local TV shows the surveillance highlights of the day. She's an information collector, a paid enforcer who walks around and writes down deeds about her neighbors. Like the man who carried a drunk person home. Things like this are good deeds, she said. But the farmer overheard swearing and being rude? Yeah, bad deeds. Her quota is 10 a month. She likes the work, thinks the city's...
Let's take a peek inside a smart city command center. You will have zero privacy, and it's all about the data. This is a snapshot on how smart cities and 15-minute city surveillance will work. This is going to be the backbone of every 15-minute city, smart city, or C40 city. Welcome to the future, where your every movement will be tracked within a 15-minute radius. Yes, in this age of AI, where people can be chipped and monitored, free will is over. Your privacy, opinions, choices, and decisions will be all controlled. Yes, they are trying to tell you that you don't need free will, and you will still be happy. And yes, I doubt that. In this clip, you can see social credit scores being checked on a train.
Dear passengers, people who travel without tickets or behave disorderly or smoke in public areas will be punished according to regulations, and the behavior will be recorded in the individual credit information system. To avoid any negative record of personal credit, please follow the relevant regulations and help with the orders on the train and at the station.
And now don't forget, this is a global plan. The list of cities includes every single nation. For example, Australia and Canada have already begun. I mean, really, it's all about creating a two-tiered society. And their plans, contrary to everything they say, in reality, is not about changing the economy to ensure it's more quote-unquote equitable. In reality, it's only going to exacerbate the wealth gap. You are going to have the rich, quote-unquote elite class living something like this. But then, the majority will be living like this. Yes, once again, welcome to the future, living in the pod, hooked up to biometric sensors 24/7, constantly surveilled and critiqued, with points being deducted from your social credit score. Live in the pod, eat the bugs, you peasants. They always pitch it as some kind of utopia, but it's nothing more than dystopia. Now to end this video, I found something really interesting. The parallel between Mao Zedong's genocidal campaign, the Great Leap Forward, and the Great Reset.
The People's Commune will be the bridge that will carry China towards the socialist paradise. The Commune experimented with a completely new way of life. All private property was abolished. Houses, animals, land, and production tools became collective property. Nurseries and free, compulsory schools liberated women from their maternal duties so they could work in the fields. The family unit disappeared, and children were made to live by the new rules of collective life. The individual was nothing more than a cog in a big machine.
The furniture was seized for firewood, and everything that could be destroyed was destroyed. The pigs, the sheep, everything was collectivized. Even the pots and pans were seized because families weren't allowed to cook.
The aim was to force the peasants to take their meals in the commune's collective canteens. In some of them, they even abolished money. A system of work points was established. Food was distributed according to merit, i.e., each person's capacity to fulfill the production objectives. The notion of wages disappeared.
It was compulsory to turn up every day. If your name wasn't on the attendance list, you were punished and you lost work points. The fewer work points you earned, the less food they gave you. Oh, it was miserable. I can tell you that life was brutal for everyone at that time, except the cadres. Those people lived well.
From 1958 onwards, the cities are quite literally protected from the countryside. People are not allowed to just move about freely. A farmer who brings a cow to market will need to travel with a permit from his local cadre. People who try to flee the countryside are sent back.
No, it's not about your convenience. It's not to make your life better. It's about controlling you, controlling the economy, and ensuring compliance. You see, to them, you are nothing more than a number, a QR code, and that is entirely antithetical to what life is supposed to be. Anyway, until next time, once again, this is HelioWave. If you like the content, like, comment, and subscribe. Share the video if you want to. If you're in a position to, consider subscribing on Locals or Subscribestar. As always, make sure you disobey those true fascistas, and yes, I do hope you have a good night.